So I've got a Cannondale come in that's got a broken bottom bracket. It's a BB30 and the BB30's got loose and there's play. It could be in the bearings or it could be in the reducer that's in there because there's a 24mm crank in the thing already. So with the customer we decided the best thing to do would be to fit a Rotor BB30 to 24mm bottom bracket conversion. I had a look online to see what instructions there were, and apart from the Rotor printed instructions, I couldn't really find anything else. So I thought I'd do a quick video so anybody else in this position would be able to have a look and see what's involved. It's actually a pretty simple process, but of course you don't know that until you do it, do you? So what are we doing? We're taking out the old bottom bracket bearings, pushing them out, and we're pushing out the reducers that are inside them and replacing it with the Rotor BB30 24mm conversion. This, when it's assembled, looks to all the world like an external screw-in bottom bracket, but it's in a push-fit frame. So the way that you achieve the ability to screw it in and clamp it through without any threads in the frame is that you still push-fit, so you have the interference fit into the frame itself, but also there are two long collars on each side of the bottom bracket, one with an internal thread and one with an external thread, and these two screw together inside the bottom bracket shell and clamp the two external bearings in, giving a lot of additional structure and rigidity over the original interference fit of the BB30 bearings. So in able to install it, the first thing we have to do is punch out the old bearings, being careful not to hit the circlips which are inside the shell and which the bearings butt up against, because we need those in there all the time. So make sure when you put in a punch to remove those bearings that you're not engaging on the circlip itself, because that could create a lot of damage and be something that you really don't want to do. So having got the bearings out, it's just a question of really cleaning very thoroughly the inside of that bottom bracket shell. Clean it as thoroughly as you can and then do it again with some isopropyl alcohol or rubbing alcohol, just to make sure that you've got that as clean, as smooth as you can have it. Because it's going to be a tight fit in here, so everything that you can do to make that as clean as possible should make the rest of the job go a lot smoother. When it comes to installing the bottom bracket, the first thing you do is you take the drive side and you install that in just the same way as you'd install a press fit bottom bracket. So use a bearing press, if you've got one available to you, to make sure that you get that in nice and square. There's different talk on the web and in different articles about whether to put anything on the cups before you press them in. So I decided I'd go with a bit of anti-seize, because these will have to come out eventually at some stage, and so a bit of antifreeze in there should make the removal process a bit smoother. So I guess you could use a bit of grease. A lot of people will put them in dry, but I chose to go down the very light coating of anti-seize route before just pressing that bearing in with a static one side to the bearing press, and just turning gently and just keeping an eye on that as it goes in all the time to make sure it's going in square and not going at an angle. In this case, I got lucky, it went in nice and square and it went in first time. I just nick it up to make it tight, but not outrageously tight, just to make sure it's in there solidly. Having done that, it's then a case of screwing the other side into the side that you've just put in. Now, what Rotor do recommend in their instructions is that you put a small amount of thread lock on there. So I just put a small amount of blue on there, and then using my finger, which should probably have had a nitrile glove on it, to be honest, I'll smooth that round to take the excess off, and just to leave some thread lock on there, just to help it bind up solidly. So we're doing that, we're around the other side, and then you can feel very quickly when you put that second cup into the shell that it engages on the screw-in fitting that's on the first cup that's gone in already. So there's plenty of space, and there's going to be plenty of thread overlapped when the thing screws in. So I just put it in very gently to leave quite a bit of space outside, put a bit of thread lock on, sorry, not thread lock, put a bit of anti-seize on, as I do on the other side, just a light coating. And then you can screw it in the hand tight and make absolutely certain that you haven't got it cross-threaded. Cross-threading is a very bad thing, because you will ruin the entire thing. Again, it's on the one that I had, it's a really smooth thread. It was really nice. It's screwed in straight away, nice and free. And it'll go in hand tight, of course, until that bearing cup starts to engage into the push-fit frame. And then you've got to screw the thing in. I was using a Park Tool BB30 to do that. Ideally, you should have a torque wrench on this, because the torque setting to screw this thing in is up to 40 Newton meters. Now, coincidentally, 40 Newton meters is exactly the setting for putting a Shimano or a SRAM cassette onto a rear wheel. So something that I do all the time with a torque wrench, and I get to know about what 40 Newton meters is, so I was happy to do that with the Park Tool BBT9 on this bearing cup. But yes, ideally, if you can use a torque wrench to do this, torque that up to 40 mil, which is pretty tight, but not crazy tight. So screwing that in, it went in nice and smoothly again. And once that's in, then it's just a matter of putting the cranks back in. As I say, this bike already had 24mm cranks, so that was good news. No new cranks required to use this bearing conversion. And just the same as you put cranks into any bottom bracket, really, just slide them in the drive side first. You'll notice that this went in with just a bit of a thump. No need to use a hammer or anything like that, thank God. But be very careful when you go through and out the other side that you've got that axle lined up, otherwise it'll push the little bearing cover off of the bearing that's on the other side, because it's quite a tight fit there. It happened to me. I just pulled it out and the bearing cover clips back in, and then second time lucky I got straight in, and then we were good to go. And then it's just a question of putting the preload on, tightening the preload up so that it's hand tight, and that will compress the two cranks together and give you the right distance there. If you just push that on hand tight, you can feel it going on. And then it's a question of doing up the two bolts to 12 to 14 Newton meters, just a little bit at a time on either side to make sure they're being bolted up evenly. And job's done. And as you see from an initial spin, this one is running really smoothly. So I've got high hopes. I need to build up the rest of the bike so I can take it for a test ride. But hopefully we're looking good. So in summary, old bearings punched out. And instead of just that interference fit, we get the interference fit plus the locking together of bringing those two threads together and tightening it in. So it should be, I hope, a lot stiffer and potentially last a lot longer than the traditional BB30 bearings that you stick into a frame like this. Hope you find this useful, and you put them in as successfully as this one seemed to go in.